So first off, two white elephants in the room. I really am this tall. Yeah, I am wearing big heels, and on my show I wear even bigger heels because I'm like, I just wear them on my show and don't actually walk in them. And number two, what was it? Can't remember. I'm just gonna tell you I really am this tall. People don't believe it, and I get this, I walk on stage, just go like this. Oh boy, she's tall. Second thing was, so I host a talk show, and I facilitate and I moderate, and I'm really comfortable with notes. So this is kind of my safety blanket. So I'm not one of these walk around the stage too much. I might just happen to hold my stage, but thank you all for coming today. I'm excited to be here. So this is Sadie, my dog, when they said the dog who rescued me. Sadie is a rescue dog, to get the story straight. She didn't rescue me from a burning fire. She didn't bark because I was drowning, and she didn't dial 911. She didn't rescue me, but she came into my life 2 months ago, and she now takes me for walks twice a day, and she makes sure I don't snack during the day anymore. So she rescued me, and she's one decision I made in my life that I love. And interestingly enough, she adopted me. And I don't know if anyone has a dog. I didn't even know what that meant, but the dog chooses someone in your life, and she chose me. So this is my baby. So great decision for me, but I want to ask you if you ever wonder about a decision you've made, and if you made a different decision, what the outcome would be. And if you were provided for a different set of tools, spiritually, physically, emotionally, would you have made a different decision? Yeah. So I wonder sometimes, actually, you know what, I don't wonder anymore. I used to, I sit here and I wonder, what path are you going to take? Because I came to this point in my life where it's like, I have to stop beating myself up or praising myself for something I possibly had no control over. So when I come to this, I think, you know what? I gotta go left or right. I don't know, but I'm gonna take one path, and I'm just gonna go with Superman, with confidence, right? I have to make the decision, I have to go. And you know what? What happens if you make a mistake, which you might want to call a mistake, not a mistake? What about it? What happens? Do you learn something along the way? So we have to quit calling it a mistake or a failure, because you know what? It's not about your setbacks. It's about our comebacks, right? So that's where I wanted to start. I don't call it a wrong path, because I decided long ago we're not taking wrong paths, and I don't wonder anymore. But I want you to know, don't get me wrong. I'm a mom, and I'm an event planner. I absolutely love what I do. I think I know where I'm going most days, but I do love what I do, and it keeps me on a path. So first off, when I was in grade 10, I ran for girls' sports. Was a basketball player, and to this day, I'm not a person with a lot of friends. I could probably be in counseling for that. But I spent my time in the gym. So grade 12 boys were my friends. That's who I was playing basketball with, because I've been this height since I was 13, grade 8. Yeah, wow. Feel sorry for me? So anyway, I played basketball at lunch. The grade 12 boys said, you know what? We are going to help you win Girls Sports Award for the SRC. Great. So I prepared my speech. It was fabulous. I had this really pretty pink dress. And all of a sudden, the grade 12 boys come to me, and I have to present in front of the school now. And the grade 12 boys, they didn't help me do my posters or anything like that. They surrounded me, and they were wearing suits. Okay, this is cool. So I'm Lau, the president, really, and this is my Secret Service. And they walk me into the gym, and I'm like, I have no idea what they're doing, and I'm grade 10, they're grade 12, so I'm the coolest person ever. And I'm probably taller than most of them, really. Walk in, I go to the front of the stage, and I'm in front of the podium. 2 stand below, 2 stand beside me, 2, 4, and 2 stand behind me. There was 6 of them. And I start talking, you should vote for me. And a boy in the front goes, why should we vote for Lisa Peters? Well, my Secret Service guys whipped out their water guns and shot him. So I can tell you that no one knew what I said that day. I won by a landslide. And if you think about it, you think, doesn't that happen a lot? We make decisions based on some of the communication that we see, the tone maybe that I'm using, the way I look. I know that on my show I tell people, if you don't like my content, you might like my shoes. So I don't know. But that day, that's what I don't know if I learned anything that day. I won, but I remember thinking, these people didn't get my message. They just saw this amazing display of being really cool, and they wanted me to be really cool with them. So I won. Now, I graduated high school, and I ran away to Wyoming. I accepted a full scholarship to play basketball, and I went to Wyoming because it was the furthest away from my mother. At the time, we're good friends now. I graduated in 91, and I'm a mechanical engineer technologist. And then 15 months after I was hired, the company was bought out by the competition, and I was out of a job. And then I threw myself a party because I hated that job. And then the Arthritis Society hired me, and I started event planning. And I had no experience, but they hired me, and I went, sure, let's do it. Sounds great. And then in 2000, an opportunity came up with Basketball Canada. Now, if any of you have worked not-for-profit or nonprofit, you know that you have to make something out of nothing. So your marketing plan has to be built out of nothing. So I got really good at it. Basketball Canada offered me a job to be a marketing coordinator, which is funny because I had no education in that. And that night, I met a boy. Now, I'm 29 years old at this time, and trust me, I had dated a lot of boys by this time, and something whispered. And that's when the whisper started for me and said, Toronto's not for you, he's for you. I had accepted the job earlier in the day. I met Ward that night. I married that guy. I called Basketball Canada and said, I'm not coming. And I married that boy a year later. So that was sort of my how the whisper started. So going back to, do you ever wonder if, in your story, if your life story would be different if the choices you had made? So that's sort of where my story begins. And it starts in this place, a developing country. This was a job that I had at the Arthritis Society. This was doing what I love to do. At the Arthritis Society, I was taking people to, and I started this in Canada called Joints in Motion. You've probably heard of it, but I brought it from the States. I brought it here to Canada, and over the many years. But this particular time, I loved what I did, but I was starting to get tired of it. And I know, I'm getting to travel the world, and I get to go to all these Europe and North America and South America, but something inside of me, those little whispers would start to say, you know what, it's time. It's time for you to leave, Lisa. But I couldn't, because I grew up, I didn't travel as a kid. So this was just, fun. So anyway, we did go to Machu Picchu, and this is sort of where my story begins, and I know that I needed to make a change, I needed to make a difference. You need to listen to the whispers, because if you don't listen to the little whispers or the gut instinct maybe you have, it turns into bricks being thrown at you or punches. And you wonder, oh, how did I get here? Well, you didn't listen to your gut in the first place. So I needed to make the change. So here I am in Peru, here for an event, and nothing can change you from what happens. I had 87 Canadians. We were trekking Machu Picchu, and nothing prepared me for an earthquake. I know, right? I think it was my second at this point. Really. But here I am. I'd just gotten back. So we were off the mountain. We were at our hotel. We had 10 hours delay, so we'd rented day rooms in Lima. And I was with a girl named Hope. We just pulled back to our hotel, and all of a sudden the earth is shaking. And the dogs start barking. The car alarms start going off. People are screaming and running. I'm a prairie girl. It's oh, there must be underground trains, right? I don't know. And everyone's run away from the buildings. So I start running, and then you realize, you look up, and you're I am surrounded by buildings. So you stop. And you wonder, what am I going to do now? And I was frozen in fear. But first I want to tell you that 3 days prior to that, I had met Hope that was with me that day. Hope was there when on the trek, and has anyone ever done Machu Picchu, trek Machu Picchu? So you know that when you're on Machu Picchu, rescue helicopters can't get to you. Well, maybe you never had to call them. I did. So when I went to Machu Picchu, I surrounded myself with a great team. So I had physicians, I had doctors, I had translation, I had travel guides, I had a team. And nothing prepared me for when this woman, her arthritis drugs had reacted with the altitudes we were at. and I don't know anything about this, but this happened. And the doctor said, get her off the mountain. She needs to get to a doctor. Or she needs to get to a hospital because she needs more than what I can give her. Hope. Really? Her name was Hope from Nova Scotia. Put her over her shoulder and got her to a rescue team. So that's Hope. So now 3 days later, here's Hope. And I'm standing in the middle of the square, and aftershocks are going off, and I'm shaking so bad I can't even feel the aftershocks. Like, I don't know what those are. The dogs are barking, everything. And they're going off maybe every couple minutes, the aftershocks. And immediately, BBC TV, Peru has an earthquake in Lima. It was at 8.0. It was big. So it's on the BBC, and all of a sudden, Arthritis Society is like, how's my team? Hope gets a message out to Canada. At this time, many years ago, I didn't have a phone that worked. I don't even know if I had a phone. She got a message out that we were all okay. And from that, you wonder, why were we getting messages out? But I'll get into that in a minute. She gets this message out. We all wait the time. I can't even go back into the hotel to get my stuff. I'm so past a fear, like you're past crying. I don't know if you've ever been that. Like you're more like this. I sat there for hours. We got on our plane. 8 hours later, maybe a 2-hour delay, we flew back to Canada. Hope wakes me up, and I slept a solid 8 hours because it is very exhausting being fearful. Yes, slept a solid 8 hours. Hope wakes me up and says, Global TV and Access TV are here. And I'm like, well, why are they here? Well, we issued a news release. And why are we issuing news releases? Well, on my trip, marketing, right? I brought Debbie Travis, who at the time hosted a show, I think it was called Trading Spaces. So she was with me. Her producer husband was with me. Her son was with me. Her best friend, who's a model in London, England, was with me. And her husband is the producer of Dire Straits. He was with me. So a press release was issued, we're okay. And Hope's like, there's 2 TV stations that want to talk to you, Global TV and CTV. And when you get off the plane, great. And she tells me what to say, what not to say, and how to handle in this situation. I'm like, Hope, how do you know all this? Well, I'm a communications officer for the Canadian Armed Forces. Look at you. Her name's Hope. So we get off the plane, and Hope takes one, and I take the other. And I'd like to think I'm the coolest person ever, really strong. I started to cry. They didn't get a soundbite out of me. Nothing. Like, I'd like to say I'm a hero, and I'm like all talking, and no, nothing. I cried. And I look over at Hope, and she's just rocking it. And I got on that plane, and my life changed, and I never saw her again. So I've actually friended her on Facebook, because isn't that what Facebook boards for stalking people? But I came back to Canada, and I tried to negotiate my position, and they wouldn't do it, so I quit. And I had nowhere to go. I had no job, but something deep inside of me, that whisper, honestly had thrown me the brick. It's like, I've tried to tell you this is what I'm telling myself. The whispers tried to tell me, and I didn't listen. So I got the brick thrown at me. But what I didn't know about the experience of Peru was that it would teach me who I'd surrounded myself with, the things that were happening to me, the experiences were meant to happen, and that I better start doing what I said I was going to do. And I became aware of all of this. And I don't know if you can think of a point in your life where something happened in your life that turned you upside down and it made you think differently. And I can tell you that sometimes it happens to you, but you don't notice the change in you. And that sometimes it's your friends that tell you that something is different within you. So today I wanted to share my experiences of what maybe I learned, what had happened, or unfortunately I'm a little slow sometimes, so it takes reflection of what I have learned. So number 1, integrity matters. So there's no gray area when you are building trust, because twisting the truth or not telling the truth or telling lies is not an option. And number 2, surround yourself with kindness. We need to surround ourselves with people who care about us. And sometimes we surround ourselves with people who can elevate us at work, elevate us in our job, elevate us in society, on the sports team, whatever. And I don't know if those are the people that will always go to bat for you. And number 3, follow the opportunities, because there are opportunities and they just float around you, and it's your chance to grab them. So let's take a turn on and follow these on how we can turn our lives around. So number 1, integrity does matter. So there was this study done, and it was a staring eyes study, and it was a project done in a coffee room. And in the coffee room, they put up this poster. And the poster said, if you'd like a cup of coffee, put 80 cents in the jar. Pretty easy. But one week, they put up a very pretty picture of flowers. And if you'd like a cup of coffee, please put in 80 cents. And then the second week, they put up the staring eyes. If you'd like a cup of coffee, put in 80 cents. The weeks that they put up the staring eyes, they made twice as much money. And you wonder, why do you need staring eyes to be honest? Because in business and in life, honesty earns trust. So my story is, I'd say I'm a fundraiser. That's how I make my business, because I don't make it doing this. Fundraising, and when I first started my company, you need jobs. So I took a client, a big CFL Hall of Famer, and he wanted to do an event with me, and he doesn't have any money, but he wants to raise money for a great organization. I'm in, right? Make a difference in the community. So this client, we put our sponsorship package, and we get a very large business to sponsor us. Now, if you don't know the difference, there's charitable donations. You can make $100 or $1,000 donation to a charity, and that's a charitable tax receipt. That is your benefit. Sponsorship is when they put their name all over everything. So it's the K plus S. Do you guys have K plus S? Or that's a mining company. Or Shell Oil Walk for Life, right? They pay a lot of money. So they could pay $10,000, $25,000, $100,000 to get that name on that title. So my client, we did this. And I told my client that when you have sponsors, the sponsors are meant to enhance the event, advertise the event, increase the sponsor's exposure, and overall just make it a general great experience, because that sponsor, that's marketing money for the sponsor. They want to be marketed as the big sponsor. My client didn't listen to me, and he started spending the money not to enhance the event, not to advertise the event, and not to increase sponsors' exposure. And the event was awesome. It was a fantastic event. We raised so much money. The money went to a fantastic cause. It was great. Clients happy, sponsors happy, guests love it. My profile is huge. My company is now launched. And then you think, is this how I want to build my business? Do I want to build it like this? Lying and using money where should have used it? So at the end of the event, I have to go to the sponsor, the business, and say, post-event report, we call it. This is how we did. And it's stuff like marketing, anything you've done in marketing, maybe advertising, and then at the end is your budget. And if you've ever seen a budget of mine, I love numbers. I think I should have been an accountant. And it lists all the revenue coming in, all the expenses, it's line items. If you looked at my budget, you would know exactly what happened in my event. And I had to admit that where some money was spent. And I can tell you that I was embarrassed, and I was humiliated, and I don't think I broke down and cried. I could have. I'm emotional. But I felt terrible. And I knew that the client's integrity was now on me. And what I can tell you is no one is going to question your integrity if your integrity is not questionable. Right? And I was now feeling this. My client had embarrassed me. And he's one client. I'm trying to build my business. This is not how I'm going to build it. The clients, the two businesses that had given me the money, met with me when I met with them, and again, felt humiliated. They were really nice to me and totally granted me grace and gave me some solid business advice. And I'm very happy for that. I could have been much, much more embarrassed, and I knew this was never going to happen to me again. I needed to clean up and recover. So I realized that those two sponsors were meant to test my integrity today. And I don't know if any of you pray, and when you pray for integrity or pray for patience, as a mother, I pray for that a lot. You don't just get, oh, look at you, you have patience. No, you get an opportunity to show you have patience. Oh, hate that lesson. So this was my lesson, obviously, and I feel like I took a wrong path, but I came back. Again, it wasn't about my setback, it's about my comeback. And I made myself right on this, and I felt a lot better. So I know that we will make mistakes, but you know what? It's how we handle them. So number 2, Surround yourself with kindness. Her name was Jennifer, and I had met her on the Lisbon Marathon in Portugal. She was, well, I didn't actually meet her at the time. I was looking for her. I'm at the finish line with all my people, and I'm looking for this Jennifer, and can't find her. I call up everybody on my team and say, have you seen Jennifer? And they're like, yeah, she's out here. She is safe, and she's coming to the finish line. So while I have all my little sheep attended for at the finish line, everyone's done, we're waiting, I go up and I walk up the 3 kilometers to find Jennifer. And I found her, crying and alone on the streets of Lisbon. So I ask her, I pull up beside her, and let me tell you, at this point, I'm pregnant. And I'm like 6 months pregnant, second child, so I'm fat. And I gotta pee a lot. So we get out there, might as well talk, got nothing else to do. She has a list of 312 people that supported her. And I'm like, well, we got time, let's talk. She introduced me to every one of those 312 people. Found out about her 3-year-old, that he sold all his toys. I found out about her 10-month-old that she just had. Found out about her husband that just left her 2 months ago. Found out about the people that loved her, donated, found out I got it all. So in between bathroom breaks for the pregnant lady, we made it to the finish line, and when she finally saw the finish line, she knew she had made it. And I veered off, and I let her cross the finish line alone. I never saw Jennifer again. I see a trend here. I never see these people again. But she knew she had made it, and she instilled this kindness in me. And I love Jennifer for that, because I think we think of who we surround ourselves with. And when I came back to Canada, I took a course, because after I left Jennifer and all this had happened, I'm like, who am I surrounding myself with? Who are my people? So I don't know how to do this, so I took a course, The Power of Who, because that's what I do. And it asked me, Halt, who are the people you surround yourselves with? Who halts your fearful thinking, loves you unconditionally, speaks truth? Who do you call for wine? Just saying. Who do you call in a crisis? And I didn't know who I called myself with, but this number, 312, stuck with me for a very long time. So I don't know who you're surrounding yourself with, and I hope it's people that care about you, that love you. And I hope that we surround ourselves with people and we're kind, because that's what Jennifer taught me that day, was be kind to everyone. Open the door, smile, don't roll your eyes, don't cut people off. Be kind. Sounds simple enough. So follow the opportunities was my last one, and at first I wanted to call this follow your passion, but then I realized I didn't follow my passion when I was in a mechanical engineer technologist and lost my job. I needed to make a car payment, and I needed a job. Event planning was it. I was lucky when I went into interview. She said I had fire in my eyes. I got the job. Thank goodness I had no degree. So I started there, and I went on from there, and more opportunities came. I loved what I did. Opportunities came, and then you sort of start to get restless, the little whispers. That's when Basketball Canada came on, offered me the job. I didn't take it. I even had the RCMP offer me a job, 6-foot woman, athletic. Yeah, that was, no, don't want that. But I realized over the next few years that what happened to me in Peru was helping me to make the decisions of where I was headed in my life. And I don't know if any of you have had something crazy happen to you, and I can tell you that it's not always a game changer in that you think you know where you're going. Oh, where was I going? See, that's why I still need my notes. Over the next few years and after the Peru Game Changer, I took opportunities in radio. So that's where I was going. I went to the corporate side of giving because this is what's happening into my life, and I don't know if you believe if life is a collision of events. I don't believe this. I believe that maybe God winked at me at that moment and said, you know what? You're on a right path. You didn't change jobs at that time. You waited for the situation. Your husband came along. I somewhere didn't listen about the Peru, and I ended up in an earthquake. But this is how I felt that, I know, right? That's your path. But it's a God wink. I believe there is this master plan of my life, and A is when you're born, and B is when you're dead. And for me, it is no straight line. I wished it was, or if you want to go up, down, whatever you want to go. But for me, it's like, why? Oh, yeah. This A to B squiggle, this is more my life. I like to think it's a straight line, but it's not. So I never followed my passion to become a planner. I didn't have a degree in event planning, as I said, and I've always followed the experiences, the opportunities that came along, the collision of events, the God winks. Like any business, mine didn't come perfect or packaged and developed as my experiences grew. In the last 3 years, I've had amazing success with, I now teach event planning at the U of R, and I now host a television show. It's been 3 years. Absolutely love it. And talking to the ladies in the back, who knows what's next? I know, right? Just keep going. And the coincidences and experiences that happen are not always dramatic. They just happen, and I try to go with them, and I try to learn. So really, in reflection, integrity does matter. So it's been 6 years since that client tested me, and I can tell you, I have great clients and great friends now. Surround yourself with kindness. Jennifer Muth, in her list of 312, I didn't know where this was going. Who were my 312? But I realized I was her 313. That baby I was carrying was born on 313. Like, no kidding. I will never forget Jennifer. And then number 3, follow the opportunities, because you know what? They present themselves everywhere. And I can tell you that followed the opportunities, and I left my job, and I almost threw up when I left my arthritis study job. I loved it. And when I left, 6 months later, I was supposed to be heading to the Great Wall of China. My team, well, I wasn't on the team anymore, I left the job. They were in the air when an earthquake hit China. And it was felt in Beijing. So I can tell you that I don't know if God winked at me that day too and said, you know what, Peters, you're on the right track. It's all part of the plan. Thank you.
Lisa Peters. Great job.